Hello. In this video, I'm going to go over how to convert from decimals to fractions. This is not the easiest conversion to do among fractions, decimals, and percentages, but nor is it the hardest. I'm going to do all 10 of these examples in a follow-up video, but just for this video, I want to introduce the basics. So let's come up with a few simple examples that we can look at. I'm going to do 0.5. I'm going to do 0.375, and I'm going to do 3.75. So when we're converting decimals to fractions, there's one thing that's really important to understand, and that is place value. So if you don't know it, I'm just going to do a really quick recap for your understanding. If you do know it, skip a little bit ahead. You might not need this. So in this number here, 123.5467, sorry, 4567, the 1 is 100. So this is in the hundreds position. The 2 is 20, or in other words, 2 tens. So we call this the tens position. The 3 is just 3 ones, and so we call this the ones position. The 4, you'll notice on the other side here, it's almost a reflection of the left-hand side. The 4 is in the tenths position because it is 4 tens. So we write that as 1 over 10, or a tenth. The 5 is in the hundredths position. The 6th is in the thousandths position. And the 7 is in the 10,000ths position. Now this pattern continues in both directions. So if we had a digit here, this would be in the thousands position, and this would be in the 10,000s position. And if we went in the other direction, this would be in the 100,000ths position, and this would be in the millionths position. So we're going to use all of this knowledge to help us with these questions. For 0.5, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what position the rightmost digit is in. So that's the 5, and this is in the tenths position. So we're going to turn this into a fraction of tenths. The numerator is just going to be the same number, but without the decimal place. So I'm going to write 5. I could write 0.5, but without that decimal place in the middle, the 0 doesn't change the value. So we'll say 5 tenths. Technically, we have now converted our decimal to a fraction, but typically we're expected to simplify this fraction. So 5 tenths will simplify to 1 over 2. Let's go on to the next one. In 0.375, the smallest place value is the 5 in the thousandths position. So this will be a fraction of thousandths, and in the numerator, we're going to write this number without the decimal place. Again, we don't need the 0 out the front because 0.375 is still just 375. Again, we're technically done, but we should simplify. When we're simplifying fractions, ideally we want to find the largest common factor. I'm not going to do that here. If you can find the largest common factor, you'll get to the final answer in one step. But I'm going to look for the easiest common factor to spot, and in this case I can see that numerator and denominator are both divisible by 5. So 375 divided by 5 gives us a new numerator of 75, and 1000 divided by 5 gives us a denominator of 200. Let's simplify by dividing by 5 again. This time we're going to get 15 over 40, and again we can simplify by dividing by 5, which will give us 3 over 8. And that is our final answer because we cannot simplify any further. Now you'll notice that the final example I have here, 3.75, is very similar to 0.375. And that's going to make our simplification steps a little bit easier because we've already done the same things. So let's look at the smallest place value here. This time, the 5 is in the hundredths position, right? So you can look over here to check. So this will become a fraction of hundredths. Now we write the numerator as the decimal we started with without the decimal place. So you'll notice that this looks almost like the one we just did, except instead of 375 over 1,000, we're doing 375 over 100. So as we simplify this, we're going to get 75 over 20, which will give us 15 over 4. And we're more or less finished. I like to leave my fractions as improper fractions. If you prefer to convert them to mixed numbers, you're welcome to do so. You'll see that we get 3 3/4. Now I want to point one thing out before we wrap up, and that is that we could have noticed that this is equal to 3 and 0.75. In this case, we only have to convert the 0.75 to a decimal. So we will say this is 3 and 75 hundredths because the 5 is in the 100ths position. Now, we're almost done. We just need to go through our simplification steps. So that will give us 3 and 15 over 20. Which gives us 3 3/4. And we get the same answer, which is certainly what we would hope. So now in another video, I'm going to go over all 10 of these examples just so that you can see more ways that this can play out. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you want to see those extra examples, check out the next one.